Here's what I did. Here's what I did. Here's something funny. He thinks it's awesome.
Hey everybody, this is me, the Untitled Viking, and this is Superbeings, the jumbo card game. Now, jumbo card game. Wait to see these cards. They're absolutely huge, and that's actually something I really liked about this game. Basically because it gave the art a chance to shine. I'll probably talk about that a little bit more later. But if you've watched my reviews, and I talk about games with those little tiny cards, I always really dislike the little tiny cards. I have larger hands, and I always feel like I'm gonna rip them apart if I hold on to them too long. I mean, like, one of my favorite games ever, Blood Rage, has little tiny cards. It just drives me crazy. But regardless, so when I actually able to get like a giant card in my hand, I was like, oh, these make my hands feel normal, you know. So, but regardless, even if like that isn't going to be enough, technically, like, the game's got to be good, right? So when I was contacted about doing a review for this, I saw the theme of the game, which is it's a battle card game, where like, and I saw it, and my daughter actually kind of was looking over my shoulder at the same time. She really digs these types of games. She likes playing head to head against me, and so she, you know, was really excited to play it. And so yeah, I was like, all right, let's check this one out. And I was not disappointed at all. I really had a lot of fun with this. And if you had told me, like, 8, 9, 10 years ago, whatever, when that asked me if, like, hey, you're really going to be liking these battle games, these card battle games later on in life, I would have laughed at you, because this was not a genre that I really enjoyed. But over the last couple, 2, 3 years, I've really started to enjoy this whole process of like putting together a good group of, you know, miscreants or aliens or soldiers or whatever, and then going out and like figuring out how to battle the other player and handling that. So I think it's the competition aspect of it. I really like it. But anyway, regardless, let me show you how this game is played. It's not really difficult at all. It's pretty straightforward, but it's got a lot of things going on, a lot of cards, a lot of abilities, a lot of you know, interesting decisions that you're going to have to make as you play. So let's do that, and then we'll come back here and I'll give you my final thoughts. So this is Superbeings, the jumbo card game, and the first thing anybody has said when I've set this game up to play, and I've taken this game to a convention local here in my Fargo-Moorhead area. I've also taken it to my local game store. My gaming group has played it. You know, the first thing, even my daughter, you know, she's a big battle card game. She's a really good Pokemon card game player, and so she really enjoyed this one. The first thing all of them said is, holy cow, those cards are huge. And yes, they are very large. I can palm a basketball with my hand. I have pretty big hands, so you can kind of tell they are quite big as far as the cards go. There are two different types of cards. You have your super cards, which are your super beings that will be doing battle, and that's these two decks here and these 3 cards here. And then there are battle cards, and I'll show you some of these here in a little bit, but those are just different powers and abilities that you can use to affect the game as you play. Now, these are 2 decks that I've set up. You will have 50 cards, you'll have 25 supers, and you'll have 25 battle cards. And the instructions for the game actually do list several different ways that you can set up the battle cards. This is one of the more simple versions that you can do, but as with any good, like, kind of deck creation game, there are rules and variants as far as how that is concerned. And I would suggest that if you are interested in reading about those, you can go ahead and go to the Kickstarter page. You can download the rules yourself and check those out. But anyway, so this is a battle card game, and so I've set up for 2 players. You can play with 3 or 4, and it is very fun with those. It's kind of a fun free-for-all, if you will. But for demo purposes, and just so I can show you how the game is played, I just set it up for 2 players. So the game is played in this case with 2 players. You are playing obviously until one person defeats the other, and there are 3 different ways that you can win. You can, if you successfully knock out, KO, and that's like basically reduce their hit points to 0. 5 of your opponent's super. You know, if you get 5 KOs, you are declared the winner because you defeated, 5 supers. If you can somehow knock out somebody's front line, just these are the frontline fighters. You start with 3 frontline fighters when the game begins. You draw those randomly from your deck. But there is a back line. These locations behind each of those is your back line of fighters. But if you run out of your front line, like you just didn't have any, you just had 3 back line fighters here, but over in your front line, you would be knocked out because you would not have any frontline fighters. So that's something you have to avoid as well. Finally, each one of the supers has a super rank. So, and the super rank is listed right here. So there's a 3, a 2, a 2. This guy's a 5 over there. I don't know if you can see that or not. If you ever lose a total of 15 super rank, in a total of 15 of that super rank total, you are knocked out. You know, so if like you had, say like this guy with a 5, and like let's say this guy was a 5 and that guy was a 5, and you lost all 3 of those, you would be knocked out of the game. And of course, if you knock out the game and you're the only person standing, then you would win. So those are the 3 different ways that you can pull off the win. All right, so what do you do on a turn? Let's just kind of go through. So, admittedly, so the setup, you determine who the first player is. However you want to do that, you can roll these dice or whatever. But on the first turn, the first player can't do an attack. I'm not going to... So I might be showing you an attack here, and like technically it's the first turn of the game. So just keep in mind you can't attack if you are the first player to begin the game. So the first thing you're going to do, so let's just say this person's going first, or maybe this is the second round of the game or whatever, so they can do these attacks, so I can show you how the game is played. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to draw one of these battle cards. Now there is no hand size. You can have as many of these, but you can have, if somehow you were able to draw all of these cards and you never discarded one, which is not going to happen, you could have all of them in your hand. And so, like here you have tactic defense. And so each one of these cards is going to have a number on it that's on the bottom. And these cards have like the super being number on there as well. So you can just kind of, when you're developing your decks and how you want to build your decks, you can use that as a reference. But so here we have tactic, Fate's Hand. On defense, after an opponent has rolled their attack credit, roll a d12. Subtract your rolled result from the opponent's rolled result, with a 0 being the lowest result. So what that does is, and I'm kind of stepping forward here, the attack credits are like basically determines how powerful of attacks and how many attacks you can do in your turn. So if you played this card, you'd be able to reduce that from somebody on their turn. So it's just, you know, it's special power. But so you turn that, you just have that ready for you, you're good to go. So after you draw your battle card, if any of your supers are invisible or have shields, and I'll explain that. I mean, some of them do just have those powers, if you will, like so, you know, if they have a shield on them, like so, or if they happen to be invisible, you know, you have another token on there. You're going to roll one of these dice. A success is going to be those little alien heads, and then the blank is not a success. If you roll to see if you maintain it, so in this case, if that guy had a shield and I rolled that blank, I would have to remove the shield from him, so he wouldn't have that protecting him this particular turn. You know, just once again, you know, like you do that for each one of your supers that is invisible or has a shield. After you've done all of that, what you're going to do is you're going to go into your action phase. So that's where these big, giant, chunky 12-sideds come in. So the big thing is that each person automatically has 3 actions that they can take, and you track your actions using these 12-sideds. Now you might be saying, well, why do I do that? Well, admittedly, right now we're not going to have a lot of different things going on, but a lot of times you'll have different cards, different battle cards you'll have supers that have powers, and you'll also be able to discard cards and supers to get more action points. So it's always good to have that out there, so each time you either use an action, you reduce it, or when you add actions, you add them, so you don't ever lose track of that. So that you just have that out there like so. So the following actions you can do, you know, and these all cost 1 action point to do these. And so I'm just going to move this off to the side here quick. So you can draw a super card. So what you'll do is you will take, you just take this top card here. Well, we're going to take Sagan here, and we're going to draw. And I should mention, since I have this guy standing right in front of me. So here's Sagan, and then you can, it has a little background for him and little stats and what have you. His super rank is 2, and it's like he's number 6, and he's in the battle year. It's just all these things. This 4 up here, the pro, that's his hit points in when he's in pro mode. Now on the back of this is his POW mode, so you can see now he's all excited and he's getting ready to attack. So now his hit points in POW mode is 6. He has a superpower that once during your attack phase, only if available, look at the top 3 cards of your battle deck, choose 2 and put them in your hand, and put the other card in your discard pile. So that's his superpower. This is his attack, immobilizing cosmic energy spheres, inflicts X damage, where X is equal to the total number of battle cards in your hand. So that would be if he attacked. And this invincibility. So heal 1 super of all damage. Heal 1 super of yours on the battlefield of all damage. Now, invincibility is an interesting stat. So invincibility, you gain that power when one of your supers manages to KO 2 of your opponents, and so when you do that, they automatically get to enact that power. When they do that, they get to enact that power, and then they go immediately to the bottom of your super deck. So you fold them back in. Now they always come into play in their pro mode. They don't come into play in your POW mode. But you can use an action, and you take that, and then you can just put them in your back line somewhere, like so. Now I should mention that when you're in the front line and you're doing attacks, you can only attack the one that's in front of you. There's no diagonal attacks and so forth. Also, people in the back line can't be attacked unless the person on the other side has a leader token. Leaders can attack this one and the one behind it as well. And you put leader tokens on there through an action. I'll explain that here in just a couple minutes here. So that is one of the things. You draw one of those cards and you put it into play. Now notice how, like, you always are going to know what super is next in the line, right? So you have that knowledge. However, it's something where you only see the pro side. I mean, admittedly, you can go ahead and turn them over and look at the other side, but you can't go digging through the deck and seeing, okay, if I can get through 5 guys, I'm going to get this particular super that I really want. So, all right, so you can recycle a backliner. So remember, these are your backliners. As an action that takes 1 action token, you can recycle a backliner. They cannot be stunned, and they has to have no damage on them whatsoever. And then what you can do is you can just, as an action, then you just put it at the bottom of the deck and basically opens up a slot. A lot of times you're going to be full up. You're going to have your full 6, and you'll have to recycle a backliner to do that. You can heal a damage. So, like, let's say, this particular Nanara had taken 4 points of damage. You mark damage with these D12s. And if you wanted to use all 3 of your action points, you could use all 3 of them to heal 3 points, and then she'd only have 1 damage. You can heal 1 damage for each action point that you use to do so. You can move a frontliner that's not stunned, and they can be damaged if you want to another available spot in your front line. Now notice that's only if you have an available spot. Say this guy had got knocked out, you could move Nanara over here to do that. You can move one from here to here if there's an open spot. It isn't just like a moving of 1 space. So just, you can, move them to, as long as there's an open space there. You can also move a backliner that is not stunned to another spot in your back line. And that also takes an action point. Then you can flip a frontliner. For 1 action point, you can say, okay, I want a Mesa here, the human sorcerer. I want to put their power into effect. You can spend an action point to flip them over, and so then you can have them in their power mode so they can do attacks if you want to. Now you can look at the other backside at any time of any of these cards that are out there and decide which one that you want to do that with. It's your option. You can, if you've used a scheme battle card, and I'll talk about battle cards here in just a little bit, but if you use the scheme battle card that's in effect, And you can have up to 2 of those in effect at any time. You can remove one of those as an action point. And you can perform a recovery roll for a stunned super. If one of your particular people had gotten stunned, like so, you can go ahead and roll this die. Once again, alien is good, blank is bad. If you get an alien, you can remove the stun that is on them from that. So those are those actions. So for 2 actions, you can switch spots with 2 of your frontliners. So you could take a Mesa here for 2 actions, and you could switch spots. And this is basically like if you're looking at a cross and seeing the person that you're fighting, and maybe the person would work better, like attacking that particular thing, like super that your opponent has. You can do the same thing with 2 backliners. So if we had these 2 backliners like so, you could take an action and you could flip these 2 for 2 actions and swap those back and forth like so. Now, a lot of those actions that you're going to be taking like that, it's because you have, like, in that case, you have like a blank spot and you want to move them forward or what have you. And also, like, if there's a leader on the other side and you want to avoid, having somebody like that guy was injured and this leader could have attacked him, you move him over so then they couldn't attack that particular spot. Alright, so you can summon a backliner that's not stunned. If they can be damaged if they want to, and to an available spot in the front line. That requires a certain number of action credits that is equal to their super rank that is in the pro side of their card. So in this case, like Kronos, it has super rank of 3. In pro mode that would count. So like notice how like on the other side here, they don't even have like a marking for their super rank. So that would take 3 action points to do that. Now you might be saying, wait, whoa, like look at this guy right over here. He's got a super rank of 5. How would I ever get that guy summoned into my front line? Well, I'll explain that here in just a little bit. But you can retreat a frontliner. Just like the ones you can move them back into the back line. That once again is equal to the super rank of the particular person that you move that. You can assign a new leader, and to assign a new leader requires counting the stars. It's up here, and that's like these stars that are up there. That is how many how many action points you need to assign that new leader. And you can also change a leader as well for doing the same exact thing. Now, so I remember I mentioned, like you said, well, how do I get that many more action points? There are battle cards you get that you can discard that are going to get you action points if you have them. Sometimes you'll have invincibility actions or superpowers that will get you some action points. But you can burn a battle card that's in your hand and discard it to your discard pile and gain 1 action credit. You can do that as many times as you want. If you had 5 cards in your hand, you want to discard all 5 of them, you get 5 action credits, you can do so. Or you can also sacrifice a super that you have on the battlefield that isn't stunned, and it is in pro mode, not power mode, but pro mode. And then you gain action credits equal to the super's power rank. But if you sacrifice a super, it's handled like one that has been KO'd. So it will count towards the possibility of you losing the game. But if you desperately need some action points, you can get a big movement in or something that you have to take care of, you can sacrifice one of your supers that you have. So those are the different actions you can take. It seems a little bit confusing at first, but as you play the game, it becomes kind of second nature. As with any of these battle card games, the first time you play through it, you're going to kind of stumble a bit, but once you know the rules, it's just going to fly by. So here's the big thing. So how do you do attacks? Well, first of all, the big thing with attacks is that you have to have people in their power mode. Like, let's just turn these 2 over. Let's put these 2 in their power mode. And so on your turn at the very beginning, what you're going to do is you're going to take your red 12-sided and you're going to roll this 12-sided. Ooh, I got a good roll. So I got 11. So I'm going to have 11 attack points to use. And you can attack with, you can attack with your supers, and you can attack with them multiple times. It should be noted that with both action points and attack points, you don't have to use all of them up if you don't want to. You can carry some over to the next turn. However, you can't ever carry more than 12 over into the next turn. That 12 is your maximum. So, you know, if you wanted to and you just wanted to like save up, and that's another way you can have, you know, more action points for the next turn. If you're building up, you can save those 3 and then you know, save them up for the next turn. So you know, then that's a very tactical decision that you'll be making quite a bit of time, quite a few times as you play the game. Now the cost to do any attack will be the stars that you have located up here. So Synthwave has a 3 stars, and Nanara has a 4 stars. So, like, just looking here, like, you can see Nanara, like, you can say flying, acrobatic, agility strikes. Remember, this is the attack. Inflict 3 damage. In addition, roll a DC, which is that die with the alien. If heads, an opponent can't play any battle cards in their hand on their next turn. So it's like kind of a special little power you have. And so if you want to do that, you would say, okay, I'm going to attack this particular, I'm going to attack Zotan, the android warrior, and we're going to go ahead and we reduce this down to 7 because of the fact that it's going to, and we're going to do our attack. And he has a 6 in his pro mode, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put the 3 on there, and then we would roll this to see, and then bam, haha, you can't play any battle cards because we got a heads result and that particular thing. So let's see what Syncwave's attack is. And Syncwave's attack is Synchronized Machine Meltdown. Inflict 3 damage to all android supers on the battlefield, including yours. Also inflict 3 damage to any other target on the front line. So I don't even know if this... Oh wait, we do have androids. We have 2 androids. So this would be an android, and that would be an android. Awesome. So we could use that power. We reduce it down to 4. We're going to go ahead and attack. It does 3 points of damage to all of them. So not only do we have this guy over here, which is Pro 1, but we also have him Pro 6, but he's already got down. So here's something interesting. So in this case, you have to actually do 1 more damage. So like if you do 6 damage, so if we've totaled 6 on this one, we've got that. We've got to do 1 more point of damage before it does anything. But this one, we've done enough damage because he's only a 1. So when that happens, what you're going to do is you're going to flip him over to the POW. He had 1, we did 3 points of damage to him, but we don't carry any damage over. And if he's the leader, it would stick with him and you would stay the leader at the next particular turn. But now, like, we've actually done, maybe kind of done the other player a favor because we've activated this one. They don't have to use an action point to do that. They have their KS Android Warrior prepared to do their attack on their end. But we have that extra 3 damage that we had that he can do, so we could have it apply to Zotan over here. And then because he was 6, then he had a total of the pro health was 6 on there. He had taken 6 damage. We apply the 3. It's enough to knock him over. So now he is stuck, and we've activated both these. Now, that's a good thing in a way because of the fact that, 1, if we can keep this guy alive, he can keep doing lots of damage to these guys. And then also we can knock them out because they are well on their way. Because that's how you get a KO'd super. You have to knock down their health. Like from POW, you do that 5 damage to this, and you flip him over, he's got 6. And so once, like, you knock them all the way down the second time from their 6, and then the 5, I did that backwards. If you knock them down from this 5, you then take them out, and they are considered to be KO'd, and that's how you get credit for the KO on the other side. So you have to go through, like, if the other player hasn't activated them and flipped them over to their power or attack mode, you have to go through both sides of the card to get them going. I mean, in a lot of ways, what it is that the pro side for the cards is kind of their defensive mode. There's a lot of times, you know, they're kind of just, if they're waiting in the wings, they're getting ready to be used as an attack. There's a really good decision there when we were playing the game, and I'll talk more about this in my conclusion. But there's a really good decision there where do you let somebody bash your aliens down or your supers down to activate them for you, so then you have them available the next turn, or do you want to activate them early so you can get their attacks going, but basically reducing their lifespan on the battlefield? So ultimately, that's the whole game, right? So after we've done that, maybe we're done doing our attacks, we don't want to do anymore, we're going to save those 4 action points for the attack points for the next turn. We're going to go ahead, and the other player is going to do the exact same thing that we just did. They're going to draw cards. They're going to put more supers down. They're going to draw battle cards that they can't use. Ha ha ha. So and that's how the game progresses. Now, I was going to show you some battle cards. Let's do that. So here is a big card, and it says defense up there. So you can see it's an attack, take, defense. So on defense, and that's a very, that little thing where it says on defense right there. That's a very important part, because a lot of times when people do attacks, like you have these cards that you use, and the things that say on defense, and there will be sometimes cards that will have, like super cards that will have things that are for on defense as well. But it says when a frontliner of yours is attacked involving damage, roll a d6. If you roll 1, negate the attack. 2, the attack stays the same. On 3, 4, 5, or 6, the attack stays the same, but the attacker also receives damage equal to the die that you rolled. And so it's one of those things where you have these cards in your hand. You can affect what's going on. Let me see if I can grab like a scheme card, like a scheme offense. So here we have a scheme offense card. This is something you'll have in play for a little while. Once during your action phase, you can change your leader or establish a new leader costing 0 action credits. So you can change your leader around for no actions whatsoever. Here is like a continuous. Once during your action phase, roll a d20. If the result is 1 to 10, you optionally heal damage up to the result to 1 super. If the result is 11 to 20, then you discard the card. So, there's all these cool little battle cards that are going to affect the game in one way or the other. And just add to the engagement and kind of, I'm not going to say chaos, because the game is very strategic in a way, and yes, you are rolling dice, so there's some random elements to it, but the induction of the cards into the game keeps everybody on their toes. You can't just be counting on the deterministic values of your supers. The cards kind of add a much needed extra wrinkle, if you will, into each and every turn. Now, I should mention, before I go into my final thoughts, that every one of these cards is it is singular, right? It is unique. So all the cards, all these battle cards have these cool powers. All of these supers have their own cool powers. And I think that is really fantastic when you think about it, because all these different super beings that you're going to be fighting, they're all got their own unique weaknesses and strengths, and it is your job to use them as in the best way possible when you draw them and put them into play. So I really enjoyed that aspect, and I really liked the whole process of learning my team, learning what each super did, and also because of the fact that I'm an exploratory gamer, I really enjoyed diving into this one and kind of getting into the depth that each of these characters had. And I'm really looking forward to not only seeing this game published, but to seeing more and more of these super beings created, and seeing what other surprises are in store for me as this game develops. So, but let me talk more about all of that stuff in my final thoughts. There you go. That was the Superbeings, the Jumbo card game. Thanks very much for sitting through that and learning how to play the game. So, yeah, I mean, I liked it. I kind of knew I was going to like it anywhere. I mean, I really, really dig the art. I know some people might look at this and they're like, well, that doesn't really all that detailed or whatever, but it reminds me of comic book art in a way, and it reminds me a lot of, if you read the comic Invincible, it kind of a lot of the artwork within it really reminded me of that comic, as far as superheroes and all these crazy aliens and things like that. And since I'm a comic book nerd, and anything that kind of makes me remember or think of comics is going to get a thumbs up from me. So, and I like the fact that they've gone through the process of having, like backgrounds for every one of these things. So, like, here's King Romp, the Beast Ruler, and just like they actually have a mega roars of "Obey your master" echoed on the battlefield. Attack on his order bellowed from the general standing near him at the crest of Olympus Mons. It was the unthinkable start of the Alliance War on Mars. At the defining moment, the beasts declared all in with their newly crowned King Romp. I will be the greatest beast ruler ever. And I'm noticing now his stats. Height, 200 feet tall. Weight, 90,000 pounds. But, yeah, there you go. So, I mean, I liked the fact that they definitely had some fun with it, and they had, like, they just kind of went crazy as far as, like, the beasts and the aliens and the androids and what have you that were involved in it. And actually, I mean, I didn't really touch on it, but like the game actually does make sense. I mean, there's things that are like the psychic supers have, like, psychic abilities. The blasters supers have, blaster abilities, things like that. And so there definitely are distinct types and units that you have. And that helps a lot when you're trying to build up your battle deck, if you will. Now, normally I'm not a really big fan of building up battle decks. I always just said, you know what, just somebody else figure out my 20, 30 cards I need to play with, and then I'll just go from there. I'm not going to worry too much about it. But I actually tried this one. I actually kind of dove in, and I was like, well, and I looked for synergies, looked for cards that would work well together. And I think the fact that, like, it had that like, the fact that, like, there are warriors and there's brutes and there's psychics and things like that, it was really easy to kind of pick up on which ones were what you were looking for, if you will. So it wasn't one of those where I had to, like, go to some forum and, like, pick through and try to figure out exactly what build is the best, this, that, and the other thing. So I did actually do some, like, creative building of decks here, and I really enjoyed that as well. It was fun to do that with my daughter, try to, like, pick out the people we wanted to put together to have a fight with. So, I mean, ultimately, I like the theme, I like the art, and I like the mechanisms that have the combat occur. The fact that, like, you have several of these battle cards in your hand, and, first of all, they're giant, so it feels like I'm watching, like, an old Card Sharks TV game show. But, they have these giant cards, and these could have any amount of different powers and abilities. You have no idea, and it's kind of fun to, like, turn these over and reveal them and what have you. It's just, what it comes down to is that the combat makes sense. You can definitely, there's no, like, truly hidden ability or whatever. You can look at the other person's cards, you can see which ones can attack, you can try to put your people in the right spots, and it just flows really well. As far as like, and there's, as I said, tough decisions to be made. Which super do I move? Do I try to get one that's hurt? Like, do I sacrifice it? Just basically, like, yes, fine, you're gonna kill it anyway. I'm going to give you the KO, but I'm going to get, like, more of these action points, whatever. So now I can, like, reset myself up and, get myself going again. Like the different attacks, do I save those abilities, things, move forward? Do I burn this card? There's just lots of stuff like that where you just kind of are waiting for those little moments to strike and attack where your opponent is, like, feasibly weak. And then, hopefully they don't do the same. And, it doesn't, and also, as with any game like this, I don't want it to last too long. So, hitting one of those 3 ways to end the game, especially 2 versus 2, or one, two-player game, it only takes about maybe 20-25 minutes, and so the game doesn't, stick around too long, if you will. And that's something also that I don't like, those long, drawn-out, drudgery combats, where you're just, it's been an hour, and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. So, it's got great art, it's got a great theme, combat and mechanisms are extremely solid and fun, for that matter. And, like I said, it doesn't overstay its welcome. So if you like battle card games, if you like a cool comic book superhero monster theme, I strongly suggest you check this one out. I think you're going to have a heck of a lot of fun playing it. So, there you go. If you have any questions about it, ask away. I'll be happy to answer those as best as I can. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. And until next time, this is the Undead Viking, and I'm telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day. Alright, bye.